What's that? You unmuted the mic. So you mean all that other stuff was not going through the live feed? Oh, hallelujah. Well, maybe not, because I was talking about Weezer being the best. I mean, that's not a bad thing to broadcast around the world, is it? Who's that? Much more what? Their original song. Well, they really stepped it up a notch with Africa, in my opinion. They helped it be even better. Anyway, all right, we should pray. Let's pray. Father in heaven, thank you. Thank you for another day. Thank you for this evening. Thank you for this opportunity to be together with my dear sisters and brothers in Christ as we finish up these last several weeks here of confirmation. We ask that you be with us, that you open up our ears, our minds, our eyes, our hearts, our lives to what you have in mind for us. As we talk about this idea of identity, may you help get the identity that you have for us. Help us to get it deep, deep down in our hearts and our souls and our minds in such a way that we have a very rock-solid, stable identity that makes it through all the ups and downs of life. In Jesus' precious and powerful name we pray. Amen. All right. A couple of things. So we tried to do that project with the Cub Scouts. I know not everyone was able to do that. We are going to try and do something else before the 19th. Also, what does Jesus mean to you? Or, tell us about your faith in Jesus, that kind of project, paper-ish thing. Paper, but if you want to do something else, let me know. Something to demonstrate your faith, something to talk about, illustrate, help us understand kind of what you know about Jesus and how he is important to you in your life. And get working on that. Time is flying by very quickly, and then there's things like tornadoes, right, that make a mess of everything. So get on it. Get on it. I know we talked about, maybe not we, but maybe you did, and then your mom and I were talking about a project possibility. So we'll hopefully get on that in the next few weeks. And let's dig in here. Everybody got one? Okay, I think I asked that question already, but why not? All right, so over the course of the last couple of years, we've talked about a lot of things. We've looked at biblical ideas and tried to see why they are true and important pieces of information to use to guide your life. But why does it even matter? What does Jesus and what does Christianity offer? Why do we need it? Why can't we get it somewhere else? This isn't new. I've had this at the top of the last few weeks on purpose, just so you know. Tonight, we'll be looking at another passage from John's Gospel to talk about the identity that we need and that Jesus alone offers. Let's read John 10, 1 through 3, 11 through 15. We've got it up on the screen. I'm going to read it right out of the Bible here. This is Jesus speaking. Truly, truly, I say to you, he who does not enter the sheepfold by the door, but climbs in by another way, that man is a thief and a robber. But he who enters by the door is the shepherd of the sheep. To him the gatekeeper opens. The sheep hear his voice, and he calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. Now, verse 11. I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. He who is a hired hand and not a shepherd, who does not own the sheep, sees the wolf coming and leaves the sheep and flees. And the wolf snatches them and scatters them. He flees because he is a hired hand and cares nothing for the sheep. I am the good shepherd. I know my own, and my own know me, just as the Father knows me, and I know the Father. And I lay down my life for the sheep. All right, so talking about identity. How does this help us understand identity? A couple of things. He's calling the sheep by name. We're talking about how he's naming the sheep. Okay? You need one of these? Congratulations on your victory. Didn't you win something over the weekend? So he names the sheep, and he lays down his life for the sheep. Those are kind of the two keys that we're talking about here. All right, so everyone needs a sense of identity. And identity requires at least two things. This is near the top here. A durable sense of self. Durable is D-U-R-A-B-L-E, durable. A durable sense of self, a core you that is true from day to day, year to year, and situation to situation. This is who you are, right? No matter what's going on around you, this is who you are. And then two, a sense of worth and value. A sense that you feel like a significant and valuable person, right? So a durable sense of self, kind of this core person, who you are, no matter what's going on, no matter how much time has passed, no matter how many different people you've been around, this is you, right? The you that you take with you all over the place, but also that you're kind of important. That you're not just a bunch of cells taking up space. Right? Using up resources. Stop using all my oxygen. Right? Why do we let you have oxygen? Why do we let you have food? Why do we let you have gasoline and natural gas in your houses and all those kind of stuff? Because there's something about you of worth and value. Well, this is what we're talking about. We're unpacking that. Every culture in the world pushes an identity on its members, whether they realize it or not. We assume it's the only way. Okay, so what we're saying here is that the world that you live in is, well, let's change the word world. The context that you are in, so America, Louisiana, St. Tammany Parish, Slidell, and then like your family, like the Bruneys, the Yees, the Gredersons, your household, Rome's. I wasn't trying to name everybody necessarily. I was just giving examples, okay? So all of those, Furmans, the somethings. Goodness gracious, so sensitive. All right, so all of those different places that you kind of exist in, you operate in, they are all shaping you and forming you, and you may not realize it. In fact, you probably think that this is just the way it is, because it is for you. But that doesn't mean that there aren't other options. It doesn't mean that there aren't other ways of helping shape people or giving people an identity, okay? But so this is happening around us. We're kind of blind to it. We don't realize it. I mean, it may take you, this is, the fact that I'm saying this to you puts you like 30 years ahead of me. Maybe not 30, 20. All right, I didn't necessarily think about this stuff when I was your age. But the world around you is telling you this is how you get an identity. This is how all the other lessons that we've had. This is how you have freedom. This is how you get satisfaction. And this is how you have meaning and purpose in your life. And this is how you have hope. These are all the topics we're going to be talking about, okay? So every culture is pushing this on you. You just assume it's the only way because that's the way it is. That's all you know. All right, so Jesus says that we are sheep. Bah, bah, right? We're sheep. And he says that he calls us by name. You mean the name too, Kenny? Yeah, I was trying to save space on the page. If I make it too big, it bumps it over and then it drops it down to the next line, and get over it. It'll be fine. That means, all right, so when the Bible says you are sheep, do you think that's a good thing or a bad thing? Sheep are cool. Sheep are so cool. They have fur. It's called wool. It is called wool, but I get the point. All right. So it's not actually, because sheep are dumb, incredibly dumb. They are so dumb. It's unbelievable. No, Jesus is calling you dumb. He's calling all of us dumb when he says we're sheep. Yeah. Yes. The chickens are also pretty dumb. I believe that. Okay. But sheep are like, I mean, they're so dumb, they just keep eating and eating and eating, even if it's not really all that great for them. And they don't move until they have to, or their shepherd gets them to move. Okay. And then we showed a video in church one Sunday, a couple of years ago maybe. Mr. Scott might remember. You remember the video? Okay, tell me about the video. What was the video? Because it's dumb. Because it's dumb. That's how it got in the ditch. Because it's dumb. Listen, Hannah's got to finish the story.
People are trying to get the sheep out of the ditch, and they finally get out of the ditch, and it starts running, and then it gets back.
And it runs away. He finally yanks it up out of this little like crevice in the ground that it's stuck in. He gets it out, gets it up on the side, and it's like all freaked out, like, oh, get away from me, get away from me. And it starts running, goes boom, 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 right back into the hole. I mean, the video is all of about 15 seconds long. So within about 10 seconds or less, it gets out and is right back where it started. Sheep are dumb. Sheep are helpless. Sheep they can't exist all on their own. They climb these mountains, right? They just keep going, right? They just go, they go, they go, they go. They get to the top. Oh, he's going to look for the video now. They climb up to the top. I think it was on like Facebook or Instagram or something. It was a little 15, 20-second reel. They get to the top of these mountains, and then they realize, I can't get down. How do I get out of here? And they just walk, and they fall, and just, there you go.
С этой стороны, против солнца.
Sheep are. What's that? Yeah, I don't know. You can find out. It's only 11 seconds. I don't think it's going to disprove my point. Slow-mo version. I like it. So sheep are dumb. They're just dumb. We are dumb sometimes. Because sheep need a shepherd, and Jesus is telling us that he is our good shepherd. He's telling us that we're helpless and hopeless without shepherding. Okay? We are actually hopeless tonight because hope is not present with us, the person. Okay, utterly helpless. That means we are utterly helpless and can't name ourselves. I mean, that's part of it. This is like very big stuff that I'm trying to condense, all right? I think I told you guys and your parents that this is based off of some talks that Tim Keller did. The YouTube videos are available if you want to look at them. I don't think he's talking like too high. I mean, he is talking to a bunch of students at Oxford, which is like one of the, premier universities in the world, supposedly. And he told them they were a bunch of idiots too. So don't take it personally, right? But utterly helpless and can't name ourselves. And we're getting at identity. When we talk about naming ourselves, that's what we're talking about. It's another way of thinking about identity. This is who I am, right? You're not just, Madeline or Nate or Elijah or, right? I mean, you're more than that. But your name says a lot about who you are, especially once you start to live in that name, right? Now people associate you and who you are with your name too, right? So they kind of, but that's what we're talking about. Now in ancient traditional cultures, your parents, your family, your community named you. They assigned you a role and celebrated when you fulfilled that role or roles well, right? So most ancient traditional cultures and some that still exist today, you are who your family tells you are. You are a son, a daughter. Your father is a shoemaker or a baker or a farmer, a dairy farmer specifically maybe, or a corn farmer specifically, or a wine maker, or, that's what your father did, and so that's what you are going to do. That's who you are. You're a Yee, you're a Bruni, you're a Grederson, you're a Rome, you're a Furman. Maybe. Not in, yeah. Well, and that's another piece, right? So male, female, those are differences. There are differences there. Yes. Not in all denominations, not in all churches, but I would say in most. In most. We can have that conversation if you want. We are going to have a few classes at the end. But these are the kinds of things, when the box out there, like, here's requested topics for discussion. You can ask that question. Why are pastors only men? We are not going to get derailed by that question tonight. I'm sorry. So in those cultures, they assign you a role, okay? And they just say, you are this person in our family, and you're this person in our community, and then you find your value, okay, in doing what they tell you to do well, right? So this is an outside source for your identity. Now, this can be very oppressive. Oppressive. O-P-P-R-E-S-S-I-V-E. Oppressive. What was they assigned you a role and celebrated you when you fulfill that role or roles well. O-P-P-R-E-S-S-I-V-E. Oppressive. O-P-P-R-E-S-S-I-V-E, oppressive. What are you learning in school? A-S-S-I-G-N-E-D. Got it. They assigned you a role and celebrated you when you fulfilled that role or roles well. This can be oppressive. Can you understand how that might be oppressive? Like,
What does that mean?
are you like your parents?
Yes.
Yes, you are.
No, I'm not. I'm the complete opposite.
Are you 100% like your parents?
No.
Okay. What word?
There is no, because there is no one after.
I didn't, relax, I didn't get there yet. Okay? So just because one person happens to be really good at pottery or farming or being a butcher, a baker, a candlestick maker, you know that from the nursery rhyme thing? That doesn't mean that you're going to be good at that. Right? Just because your dad's a great chef, that doesn't mean that you're going to be.
I'm a great chef.
Or that you're even going to want to be. Right? You don't want to be. Okay, there you go. So, if you grew up in a time, in a place where you were assigned from birth, maybe even before you were born, you're just assigned this role. This is who you're going to be. No matter what kind of personality you have, no matter how much of your mom and how much of your dad you have, and how much of your grandparents or great-grandparents or niece, aunts and uncles and all this other stuff, right? Because we're not just our parents. We're like sometimes our grandparents and our aunts and uncles, right? Like there are pieces of them that are kind of becoming a part of us too, right? So how in the world can you just wake up and go, and someone goes, this is who you are? Doesn't that sound oppressive? What do you do if you don't want any of that? Yeah, running away is basically the only thing. In fact, most people that came to America in, at least for sure, it's earlier centuries, okay, first 150 years or so, most people that came here because they were running away from that. This oppressive, right? Saying like, oh, you're going to be a potter. Why? Because I'm a potter. Well, why? Because my dad was a potter. Oh, why? Because his dad was a potter. Well, what if I don't want to be a potter? Well, no one else is going to give you a job. Why? Because everybody else has got all the other roles in your village, right? If you become the chef, right, the restaurant or something like that, or you make candles all of a sudden, or you do something else, now you're taking somebody else's job in the village. They're not going to let you do that. You're going to have to go somewhere else. But then somewhere else, you're not from that village. They go, who are you? And we already have somebody that does that, like it just, so you can go into the military, you can become a priest, or you can go to America. Those were the options. Or you can go to America. You're in America. Okay, and we're going to talk about that in just a second, okay? But people came from all over the world very often to leave behind this somewhat oppressive way of creating an identity for people. Being stuck, being pigeonholed into something no matter what you wanted, no matter what your personality was like or your skill set or your interests, right? Didn't have anything to do with that, so people came to America, a lot of people. It can crush those not naturally equipped to fill certain roles because there is no mobility. That's the word, mobility. M-O-B-I-L-I. T-Y. Please help them spell. M-O-B-I-L-I-T-Y. Mobility. 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 Okay? Now, as we turn to America, all right, that's what we're looking at next. In our modern American Western culture, we are told what? Tell me if this makes sense to you guys. We are told to look inside ourselves, get in touch with our dreams, desires, and feelings, and pursue those things.
How are we supposed to write pursuing
Really, really small. That's how. P-U-R-S-U-E. Pursue. Pursue. P-U-R-S-U-E. Okay. So do you understand the difference, what I'm talking about here? So instead of somebody on the outside saying, hey, this is what you're going to be. This is your name. This is your career. This is your identity. Instead of somebody else doing that and you just have to accept it. In America, we say, look inside. Look around in there for your feelings, your desires, your dreams, and then do it. Right? Is that not like almost every Disney movie that's ever been created? Once you see it, it's actually kind of disgusting how it's just everywhere. And it's so lame. It's like, really? Can't we tell a different story? Please? Like, let's tell a different story. We are judged worthy and valuable based on our ability to live up to who we say we are, right? So now it's not somebody else saying, hey, this is who you are, and we collectively, the community, will determine how worthy and valuable you are based on how well you perform at what we have given you, the standards we've given you, right? So that's one way. But in America, it's, okay, you look and you search, right? Who are you? Right? And they're starting to let people ask some really bizarre questions. Like, oh, am I a man or a woman? Right? Like you don't even get told that based on biology anymore, right? It's like, no, you look inside and whatever you find, that's who you are. Or like Rudy. You identify as a princess. Okay. Has anyone ever seen the movie Rudy? Okay, you've seen Rudy? Daniel J. Rudy Rudiger. Isn't that like one of the most inspiring movies ever? Okay. It's also one of the stupidest movies ever. And I'm going to explain to you in just a second why. I still love the movie, and Rudy is awesome, okay? I still get all like misty-eyed and like, okay, yeah, I'm going to be, right? But that's the American version of identity, right? Rudy looks inside of himself and he says, I want to play football for the University of Notre Dame. The only problem is he's like 5'3" and 150 pounds. You know, we actually met him. So he came to talk, do a talk at a place in Canton, Ohio. We were in Canton, Ohio. I have a picture of you and Elijah outside the theater. Not the actor, the real life Daniel J. Rudy Rudiger. Okay? And he is actually pretty short. And he said, I don't care. I want to play football for the University of Notre Dame. And he spent years getting his brains beaten in by people 2 and 3 times his size, all because he wanted to play football for the University of Notre Dame. Now, it's inspiring in the sense that, wow, that takes a lot of guts. It takes a lot of perseverance. It takes a lot of character in so many ways. I mean, this guy, when you hear about his story and some of the things that he had to do just to make it through school and to get into school, right? Because he didn't do real well when he was in high school. He had to figure out a lot of things, and they wouldn't let him in initially, so he had to go to like junior college, and then eventually he got into Notre Dame. They wouldn't let him play football, right? Because he was terrible. He was 5'0" and 100 right? As the janitor guy, the groundskeeping guy says in the movie, right? You're 5'0" and 100 and you have played football with the finest athletes in the world, right? Chills, right? Just thinking of that scene. You know what I'm talking about if you've seen that movie, right? And he's all feeling sorry for himself because it's his last game and he's not going to be able to take the field, maybe. But don't you think a 5'0" 100 guy might have been more successful doing something more aligned with who he actually is? What if he took all of that perseverance and that hard work and channeled it into something that he was naturally gifted at and capable of? I mean, who knows? He could have been Bill Gates before Bill Gates was around. You know who Bill Gates is?
Wait,
Right.
he's like the person that's really smart.
Really, really rich guy.
Where he can spend his money.
He started Microsoft. No, he started Microsoft in the late 70s, early 80s. Or Steve Jobs. You got to know who Steve Jobs is, right? Apple, Elon Musk. Okay. Mr. Beast. Or, right? I mean, you don't have to be tall or athletic to do any of those things, right? Or it could have been successful in business in some other way. Anyway, it's a very inspiring story. But it's this American idea, just the fact that we love that movie, that I know what I'm trying to teach you, right? I know this, I know it's not right, and yet I watch that movie and I still get like, oh yes, that's right, that's the way life is. That's the way it should be. You look inside, you figure out what you want to be, what you want to do, and then you go out and you do it. But maybe that's not really the way life should be, or the way life actually is most of the time. All right, anyway. So in modern American Western culture, we're told to look inside ourselves, get in touch with our dreams, desires, and feelings, and pursue those things. We are judged worthy and valuable based on our ability to live up to who we say we are. The problem is that this is still all based on performance. It's a big word. I know it's not got a lot of space there, but get over it. Still all based on performance. 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 A-N-C-E at the end there. All right, so this is all based on performance. So you're good if you do what your community tells you you're supposed to do. Or you're good if you perform well at what you tell your community you are. That's crazy. Right? Are you good at who you're supposed to be all the time? That's a good one. All right? No, you're not. You're not always good at what... And the other part is it also neglects to address the fact that we are incoherent. Our deepest dreams and desires contradict. Right? So if you just look inside yourself and you try to figure out this is who I am, okay? You're going to find one thing, and then you're going to find another thing, and those two things may be mutually contradictory. They may not actually be able to exist together. Impossible to exist together. Okay, so, for example, falling in love and preparing for, advancing in, excelling in a career. What is that like? Okay, so you go to college, you do well, you're on the fast track, maybe you go to graduate school, you're going to be some kind of research person in biology or computers, technology, law, medicine, and you're just doing great. You got this gig lined up with this great company. It's going to be great pay, big bucks. You're going to be able to do all kinds of stuff. You're going to be able to do the coolest stuff. You're going to hang out with the smartest and coolest people on the planet, right? But problem is you fell in love with somebody a few years back at your school.
Why is that a problem?
Your job is going to require you to go live in California. You're in New York, and the person you love has got a job they've been at for 5 years. They're committed to that. Their family's there. They ain't moving. They can't move, maybe. Just whatever the reason, they just can't. They can't. They're taking care of a sick parent, right? They're the only child, and they got a disabled parent or something. They got to be in New York, right? So now you got to choose. I want this career path. I want all that it does for me, how it makes me feel, the money it pays, the rewarding nature of this kind of work. I want that. I also really want this person in my life forever. What are you going to do? You pick person. Okay. You pick person? Job? It depends. Spoken like a man. So it's complicated, yes. But that's the point. So you can't just look inside yourself and get answers that are always going to work. They just don't always work. We also talked about this the last time we were together. About this guy. He loves ice cream. He wants to eat whatever he wants to eat whenever he wants to eat it. He loves ice cream. He likes to eat lots of ice cream every day, every afternoon, twice a day, 3 times a day. And he wants this healthy, good-looking body. Okay? Exactly. No matter what you do, you can't just look inside yourself and figure out who you are. You need some other way to figure out an identity. Who you are wherever you go, and that you are worthy and valuable, okay? We also routinely fail at not only living up to God's standards, but also our own. Okay, so the traditional cultures, you're living up to the standards imposed upon you. In American culture, you're living up to the standards you impose upon yourself. But we routinely fail at not only living up to God's standards, but also our own. We talked about this a little bit when we were talking about like judgment, the idea of judgment. If we had a tape recorder around our neck, and it was recording everything we ever said, okay, and it was played back to us at some point, think about all the things you say about other people, the way you judge them, and you say, oh, I would never do that. Oh, that's a terrible person that does that. Oh, yeah, you can't be like that. You have to be like this. And based on your own words, not even in your thoughts. I mean, could you imagine the thoughts too? Things that you don't even actually say, but inside you go, well, that person's a terrible human being. That person is doing everything wrong. I would never do that. I'm so much better than that person, right? Imagine just the words, okay, being recorded. Do you live up to those standards? Of course not. Of course not. So why? How is American culture actually helping you? It's not really. It's not helping you, at least in all the ways. Okay? In fact, this may actually be worse than disappointing God. So, I don't know, this might be a little bit over your heads, maybe not, but there's this. Did they make you read plays in English class?
No, I do plays. I'm a talented theater.
Okay, have you ever heard of a guy named Arthur Miller?
No.
Death of a Salesman?
No.
They didn't make you read that, Death of a Salesman? Who said yes? You have to read that? Okay. Anyway, so there's this guy. He wrote a very popular play called Death of a Salesman. His name's Arthur Miller. But he also wrote another play called After the Fall. And it's really like a very introspective thing. It's kind of, people think he's actually sort of talking about himself in this play. And there's this scene here, I just want to read this for you, where he's kind of like getting rid of God is sort of what's happening. Except it doesn't go as well as he thinks, right? So some people, they think the God idea imposed upon us and these standards of God imposed upon us are a lot like traditional cultures in that they are imposing their way on you, right? Like, this is who you're going to be, and this is how you have to do it. And if you don't, you're out, right? So they equate God with those things. And so they're not just trying to get away from traditional culture, being an American, they're also trying to get away from God and theology and religion and all that kind of stuff. But he brings up a problem, okay? He says this, okay, you know, more and more I think that for many years I looked at life like a case at law, a series of proofs, like a legal battle, okay? When you're young, you prove how brave you are or smart, then what a good lover, then a good father, finally, how wise or powerful. But underlying it all, I see now there was a presumption that I was moving on an upward path towards some elevation where God knows what, I would be justified or even condemned. A verdict anyway. Right, so somebody's going to tell you you passed or failed. I think now that my disaster really began when I looked up one day and the bench was empty, right? So he said, no judge in sight. So he's saying, okay, so there's no God, right? Yeah, I've been going through this, like, am I good enough? Am I not? What's going on here? But he looks up and he says, oh, there's nobody at the bench in this courtroom. There's nobody there to judge. And all that remained was this endless argument with oneself. This pointless litigation of existence before an empty bench, which of course is another way of saying despair. So what he's saying is that, okay, if you take God away, we still have this need to be validated somehow. We have this need to be said, where somebody's going to say, hey, you pass, or you're good, you're valuable, you're worthy, you're something, right? You can't get rid of God and get rid of that need. In fact, when you do, now forget, worrying about God. Now you have your own standards. And if you are really serious about that, you're going to find that it is far more depressing and far more exhausting to try and live up to your own standards. We can be our own worst critics. You know what I'm talking about when I say that? You're probably harder on yourself than your parents might be. Or at least one day you probably will be. Okay? And he's saying that's a recipe for despair. All right, so the evidence is in our culture. God has basically been removed as an essential part of society and a healthy, flourishing human life. All right, when you watch TV, when you go to the movies, that's what's happening all the time. They're just, you don't need God. You don't need help. Just free yourself from all that stuff, okay? Let it go, right? We talked about that last time. Yet, we endlessly look for validation and affirmation from others, often in our love partner, often in a boyfriend or girlfriend, a fiance, spouse, okay? We look to them. This is actually big in music and in movies. If you can just find your soulmate, right? You can be rid of all of your faults and feelings of nothingness, right? Here's a person that you're going to dedicate your life to, and they are going to help you feel this way. It's very, very common in American culture today, that's how this is going to work out. So much so that people get married and they're like, you know what, I'm not going to have any kids because they're just really a hassle. Which, by the way, they are. Not that we don't love our kids, but it's a lot of work. You have to, but that's what people say. They say, and I've got all I need in this love partner of mine. I don't need to add children to this mix because it's really all about me and who I want to be. But you need, the point is you need this outside voice, okay? But here's the unfortunate reality. No one can affirm themselves. It just doesn't work. We have to be named from the outside. That's why we're looking for this person, this soulmate, right? That's why we're working so hard to get into our profession or our school of choice or all these other things, right? We have this need to be validated. That's why even when you get rid of God, people are still like, am I good enough? Am I living up to my own standards? Am I this? Am I that? Right? You have to be named from the outside. There has to be somebody who you adore, who adores you. There has to be somebody that you love, that you care about, who loves you. So I have adore, who adores you, if you're looking at the blanks. Who you love, who loves you. I mean, there's a... Unit 3? Well, I'm sure I said it, but... Or as J.R.R. Tolkien wrote in The Lord of the Rings. Anybody know The Lord of the Rings? You should watch it if you haven't. The praise of the praiseworthy is above all rewards. That's this idea that when the praise of the praiseworthy is above all rewards. So if there is someone that you know that is praiseworthy, right? Somebody you know that you look up to and you go, man, they are just so amazing at this, whatever it is, right? Oh man, they're just awesome. They're amazing. I wish I could be like them, right? If they look at you and they say, hey man, you did a really amazing job. That was fantastic. What do you think that does to you? Does that feel good or bad? Really good, right? Yes.
What is the blank for
Faults and our feelings of nothingness. So the point is, there has to be somebody who you adore, who adores you. The praise of the praiseworthy is above all rewards. But that person can't be human, at least not in the traditional sense, right? Why? Because humans are inconsistent, unstable, and frail. So the blanks on that line are human, frail. You will lose them one day. They're going to die. They're going to be gone. And if that person who names you, that person who helps you know who you are and that you are a good, valuable person, if they're gone, who are you? You lose your sense of self, your identity, okay? But in Jesus, the Good Shepherd, we see the only perfect person that has ever lived, loving us enough to give his life for us. In Jesus, the Good Shepherd, we see the only perfect person that has ever lived, loving us enough to give his life for us. We were sinful and beyond ever earning love, affirmation, or approval on our own, right? We were never going to be able to live up to his standards or our own. Yet Jesus came, he lived perfectly, he earned the praise of the Father and every being in the universe, but instead of accepting that praise and those blessings for himself, he instead accepted what we deserved. And so the only person in the whole universe whose opinion really matters, right? So the praise of the praiseworthy. Who is the most praiseworthy person on the planet, in the universe? Jesus, right? And if Jesus, the only person in the whole universe whose opinion really matters, says that you are loved beyond measure, what does that mean? Do you have an identity that you can take with you from day to day, week to week, year to year, situation to situation? child of God. Yeah. You don't have to worry about the standards brought in by the outside. You don't have to worry about the standards self-imposed from the inside. You can be who God wired you to be, even if that means not always doing what people expect of you, as long as it's, what God is looking for from you. I mean, don't be a mass murderer, please. Right? Don't do that. If you hang on to this and really believe it deep down in your soul, you can become an amazing, stable, and resilient person. Anyone know what resilient means? You missed the last two. Ah! There's only one. Opinion. The last one is opinion. Perfectly. Anyone know what resilient is? What are you talking about? No, I'm talking about the idea. This idea, not the paper. Although maybe the paper will help you hang on to the idea. Do you know what resilient is?
No, I've heard of Brazil.
Brazilian is not resilient. Or maybe they are, but I didn't mean it that way. Resilient or resilience. Anyone know what I'm talking about? I say resilient. Word of the day, look it up. Okay? That's your homework. Look up the word resilient or resilience. Okay? Look it up. That's your homework. What time we got? All right. I don't see a whole lot of adults here, so do some groups or find a adult person to talk about the questions in the back. Okay? What? I choose you. All right. Let's, no, I literally just said all that. I literally, right? Did I not just? I'll say a quick prayer before we go. Here we go. Father in heaven, thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for the identity that you give us in Jesus. Be with us now as we prepare to kind of have some fellowship and talk about you, your word, and the things that we've learned tonight. Open up our hearts, our minds, our mouths. Guide us, lead us, pour out your spirit. Help us to get this idea deep, deep down in our heart and soul so that we can have the kind of resilience that we need for life in this challenging world. In Jesus' precious and powerful name we pray.